And welcome to Americans Learn. My name is Lauren, and today I'm doing something a little bit special. Based on a Lindsay Nicole video I did recently about the Diabloceratops, which is excellent. Somebody requested a special video about every known megatheropod. Johan the Hybrid Maker, happy birthday. A little bit late, a few days late, but this is for you. And again, I don't usually do this, but I'm feeling whimsical. So today we are in fact going to be watching this video about megatheropods by, they are the ultimate terrestrial predators, apparently. This is by Vividen, Paleontology Evolved. I hope this is the one you wanted me to watch. I just kind of copy pasted the title you gave me, and this is what we're going with. So, I'm really looking forward to it. If you want to see more stuff like this, go ahead, let me know what I should be looking at in the comments below. And now, without any further ado, except for the ado of me putting on my headphones, let's begin.
Predators in the public consciousness. Apex predators in the public consciousness rule the animal kingdom. That childlike sense of awe reaches its zenith with the titanic carnivores of the ancient world, symbols of a planet where everything was bigger, badder, and more fantastical. Earth's ranks of land predators produced beautiful monsters like gorgonopsians, hyenodonts, and even terrestrial crocodile relatives that dominated in the age of mammals. But they arguably peaked with the bipedal, elephant-sized reptiles known as megatheropods. This video presents an updated list of all known megatheropods, sorting them into mass-based tiers. Averages are incredibly difficult to establish in fossil taxa thanks to small sample sizes and poorly understood life histories.
Where are you at these days?
It varies from moment to moment.
Rankings here will be based on the largest known individuals of each species as a result.
Which is always so interesting too, because again, like we don't know what they actually looked like because all we have is bones. And so it's like, that's why I think it's really interesting when I see like different interpretations of certain creatures, like giving them more fat or fur or feathers or whatever, because it's like if you look at bones of anything that we have today and just assume that the bones are all they had, yeah, things look real weird. So it's like, it's just so interesting to see, like, I've seen those like pictures of like the fat T-Rexes and I'm like, they're kind of cute though. So anyway, I just think it's interesting. So I wonder if we're going to get any of that in this video.
It's often the case that the biggest individuals are fragmentary, so in those cases we'll have a solid maximum for well-preserved specimens and a tentative maximum for less reliable examples of that species.
Okay.
For this video then, a megatheropod is a theropod dinosaur whose known maximum size as documented in the fossil record exceeds 5,000 kilograms, or 11,000 pounds. Hypothetical maximum size will not be discussed or considered given the layers of uncertainty involved. Just as in the last edition of the Megatheropod Roundup from 2023, our contenders for top spot will be sorted into tiers based on the body mass of their largest individuals. Preference is given to volumetric analysis over allometry given its higher precision when dealing with the remains of a single animal. For more on that topic, check out the Paleontology Size Guide video. First up, there's the soldier tier, for theropods whose biggest representatives fall into the 5,000 to 6,000 kilogram range.
So
that's
big, though.
Already comparable to most bull African elephants.
Yeah.
Then we have the knight tier, between 6 and 7 tons.
Okay.
After that is the commander tier for giants between 7 and 8 tons. It's a big category with some big predators. The warlord tier brings us closer to the top, with a floor of 8 tons.
Closer to the top!
9 tons. Finally, there's the apex tier, the cream of the megatheropod crop, whose largest specimens are heavier than 9 metric tons. You probably have a good idea of the lucky few who slot into this coveted category.
Probably.
We'll compare each theropod to Jerry, an above-average bull African elephant who stands 3.3 meters tall at the shoulder and weighs 6,000 kilograms.
Okay,
now let the games begin.
All right, Jerry. I love the art. Oh, that's so fun. Jerry's so screwed.
Mark Graphi starts off the soldier tier. Given its highly fragmentary nature, as well as the fact that it's based on photographs of now destroyed bones, its placement on the megatheropod list is tentative. Once part of Acrocanthosaurus, it was recently given its own genus. Some have described it as an uber ceratosaurus, which I can kind of see. The horn on its nose is quite distinctive and makes it the largest horned theropod that I'm aware of. The Baharia Formation was host to a number of large theropods, including Bahariasaurus. That strange creature doesn't get an entry here, since nobody truly knows what it is.
This man is not innocent. I liked the frill guys.
Or how big it is, but it's worth mentioning. Australalia quilombensis is another highly fragmentary destroyed specimen. This spinosaurid, known from a partial rostrum, was not as big as the biggest African spinosaur material, but it has a solid chance at being a Brazilian megatheropod.
Oh,
you could consider it an honorable mention if it helps you feel better about how poor the material is.
It really sucks how much we don't it is interesting though to see what we actually have. And it's yeah, when we say we don't have much, we don't have much. The amount that they've managed to piece together based on 9 bones is kind of crazy.
At least we're pretty sure it was theropod material, unlike the goopy mess of a partial caudal that is Gomez. One day, Brazil will have a proper megatheropod of its own.
One day.
But it is not this day.
It is not.
Until then, I suppose we'll make do with the
Rude.
fossil equivalent of half-eaten pasta noodles. Torvosaurus tanneri was one of the most massive predators of the Jurassic period. At 5.2 tons, the largest specimen, Edmarca rex, is
Still
nearly
smaller
as
than
heavy
the
as
elephant.
Gary himself, and is the largest non-spinosaurid megalosauroid. It shared its environment with charismatic sauropods like Brachiosaurus and Camarasaurus, along with other predators including Allosaurus fragilis and Ceratosaurus. Torvosaurus gurnii from Europe is about the same size as T. tanneri, but speaks with a Portuguese accent. T. gurnii would have hunted Camptosaurus and Stegosaurus and competed with European Allosaurus on the Jurassic coastline. The species was named after James Gurney, the legendary artist who brought us the Dinotopia book series.
Dinotopia! I loved those books. I also had a video game of Dinotopia. You had to fight like pirates and shit.
Allosaurus batar has dipped its toes in and out of the megatheropod pond over the last few years. Recent volumetric analyses of the largest specimen indicate that it topped out above 5 tons, so it makes the cut for the 2025 edition. With a name that means alarming hero lizard, Tarbosaurus definitely was going to make it on eventually. It was a tyrannosaur with a generalist diet,
Alarming
taking on ankylosaurs with the same can-do attitude that it hunted sauropods with. It's kind of freaky that a predator the size of a bull African elephant is in the lowest tier. Don't think about that too much. Zhuchengtyrannus
I'm trying not
is
to.
another tyrannosaur who's a...
Also, I'm just learning also. I'm never going to remember any of these names. I've never heard of any of these. I've heard of when you said Allosaurus, I'm okay, I know that one. It's Spinosaurus. Oh, I've heard of that one. I'm just but all of these specifics. I'm I did not realize how many more there were that I didn't know about. I'm really feeling my ignorance.
Appearing for the first time on the Megatheropod Roundup. 3D scan data of its material indicates that it had a smaller skull than Tarbosaurus, but its axial skeleton was notably larger than the biggest Tarbo. There's also a giant
his little arms
and the infamous Su Shang dorsal vertebra, a purportedly Zhuchengtyrannus vert that's comparable in size to some of the largest T-Rex verts.
His little arms look they look vestigial almost. It's what is the use of those? What is the use of the arms that are just that big? That you can't do anything. It looks like they're on their way out.
If that does in fact belong to Zhuchengtyrannus, then the animal could be well over 8 tons and into the Warlord tier. As a Tyrannosaur nerd, I hope that more material gets found and described. Acrocanthosaurus atachensis is one of my personal favorite dinosaurs. This beautiful North American carcharodontosaurid ranged all across the continent millions of years before Tyrannosaurs took over. Its powerful arms ended in hook-like claws and could pull prey in towards its body after biting down, perfect for hunting large animals like Tenontosaurus and the even larger Astrodon. Whether or not it took on Sauroposeidon is a different story. The adults of the giant nodosaur genus Priconodon were likely also immune to predation. International Acrocanthosaurus Appreciation Day is November 11th, so mark your calendars. Therizinosaurus cheloniformis, the beloved sloth turtle of Cretaceous.
Did you say March 11th?
Mark your calendars.
November 11th.
International Acrocanthosaurus Appreciation Day is November 11th.
November 11th, Armistice Day.
So mark your calendars. Therizinosaurus cheloniformis, the beloved sloth turtle of Cretaceous Mongolia. This Edward Scissorhands theropod lived with other famed megafauna like Tarbosaurus and Deinocheirus, and would have used its menacing scythe claws as tools for pulling branches down from trees for ease of feeding.
Whoa, that thing is weird.
The claws were poorly suited to slashing, but I don't doubt that they still made for very effective intimidation strikes.
Oh, that thing is weird! I love it, though. I've never seen or heard anything of a creature like this, but bonkers. Wow.
If I were a Tarbosaurus looking for a meal, I wouldn't be trying to calculate the stress tolerance of a Theres claws. I'd be headed the other direction, looking for something less pokey to eat. Aurovenator violante is a new addition to the Megatheropod family. This South American carcharodontosaurid pushed the scales at 6.1 tons based on 3D modeling. The holotype was a post-orbital, and it's a little interesting that the more complete specimen doesn't actually preserve any overlapping material with the holotype, but you do you, I guess. At any rate, Aurovenator was awesome. Its cervical, or neck vertebrae, overlapped with one another to make the neck more stiff and resistant to shock. It also had a large raptor-like foot claw, excellent for pinning down struggling prey. I wouldn't want to be the juvenile Argentinosaurus caught on the business end of that nasty meat hook. Oh, Saurophaganax. Allosaurus annex.
Allosaurus!
It's been a rough couple of years for you, hasn't it?
I'm sorry.
Opinions on this giant Allosaurid's taxonomic status have flown through the air like arrows for decades, and the debate
I
still
kind of remember
isn't
hearing
over.
about that.
The most recent published analysis by Andy Dannison and his team in 2024 decided that the holotype of Saurophaganax, a neural arch, could not be confidently diagnosed as theropod material. They erected a new species, Allosaurus annex, and assigned a number of large theropod bones from the Kenton quarries to it. Brian Curtis, a paleontologist who has also worked with Saurophaganax material, is confident that the holotype is a theropod, and Dannison's team was very open to the possibility that they could have misidentified the material.
Okay,
there
that's
will
good.
be more regarding this animal in the future, but for now just know that the biggest specimens were at least 6.5 tons of claws, teeth, and Viking death metal.
Nice,
mosier,
okay.
or the
That
earth
thing's
lizard,
huge.
is one of the only
I've heard about
theropods
Allosauruses,
to be
though.
discovered in a group.
Oh.
Multiple specimens
Cool.
of various ages and sizes were found
So a
together,
family
strongly
group?
implying gregariousness that could have been useful in taking down the giant Argentinosaurus they shared the Winkle Formation with.
Oh, okay. So I was thinking like family type, but like maybe sort of more like a wolf pack, which are also families, so still familial. That's kind of cool.
The biggest moderately decent specimen seems to be around 6.9 tons, but large toe bones and pubic shaft fragments could indicate sizes well in excess of 7 tons.
Wow.
This is an animal I'd love to see more of in popular media. Can you imagine the protagonists of a Jurassic World movie having to escape from a pack of giant Carcharodontosaurids? Instead of making up crappy reconstructions of ever-escalating apex predators to make Rexy look like a decrepit old woman, they could play around with pack tactics and group behavior like with raptors on a much bigger scale.
That would be cool. I might actually watch that. I saw the first Jurassic World movie, but I haven't seen any of the others. Like of the Jurassic series in general, I've seen Jurassic Parks 1 and 2, and Jurassic World. I've seen like a nostalgia critic review of Jurassic Park 3, and I've seen nothing about Jurassic World 2. That's where I'm at with the Jurassic series.
David Cap, if you're watching this video, can you please make that happen for the sequel to Rebirth? Meraxes gigas, named after a dragon from Game of Thrones,
I've seen Jurassic Park 1 like 9
indeed.
times, though.
The holotype is around 5.7 tons, and histology indicates it was one of the oldest theropods known at potentially over 50 years old. Another abstract describes a second specimen as 15% larger than the holotype. However, it's unclear if this specimen is 15% larger in body mass or in linear measurements, and that creates a wide range for overall size.
That's a lot.
We have a floor of 6.5 tons and a ceiling of 8.6 tons, making it
pretty
either
significant
Allosaurus
difference.
annex size or comparable to the Giga holotype. I can't wait until that paper gets published 4 decades from now.
Yep, we'll all
Also,
be dead.
Paul Sereno, can you please publish the articulated Tyrannosaurus subadult already? Deinocheirus mirificus's placement in the commander tier is...
This guy's beef with people I've never heard of is very fun for me, actually. I'm like, I don't know who that is, but I guess he's important. Yeah!
very much open to debate. Graphic double analysis places the mighty Mongolian duck at a sliver over 7 tons, but that may not have been accounting for how the tall neural spines could have inflated the volumetric analysis. Whether or not it's in the knight or commander tier doesn't change how darn cool this animal is, though. A plant and fish-eating duck bigger than most elephants? And it has huge claws?
That's
and
crazy.
A hump-sailed thing on its back? Friend-shaped indeed. In the Theropods in Cenozoic Asia video, I said that I'd try to give Deinocheirus a hug even if it would end me, and that hasn't changed. He just looks so chill. Of course, that's what he wants me to think. I'm wise to your tricks now, Gerald. Tyrannotitan Chubutensis
But we're still gonna hug
the
you.
most metal theropod genus name that's ever been published. Tyrant Titan? Way too cool. Love it.
Yeah, that's
Plus,
pretty
at 7.4 tons, it's got the muscle to back up its bad A name. Like most giant Carcharodontosaurids, it's from Cretaceous Argentina, and would have stalked the riverside forests of the ancient Chubut province. Young
I like the idea, like he says, Riverside Forest, so I understand why the art has it as having green in it. Like, you know, I feel like it makes sense. I like it because I know we obviously have no way of knowing what actual colors existed on these things, but I like it when they make a certain amount of sense in the art. It's like, okay, I get it. It was on the riverbanks. It makes sense that it might be greener because hiding in plain sight, you know?
Titan would have needed to keep a wary eye out for this primeval monster. Just so you don't forget the scale of these predators, 7,400 kilograms is equivalent to taking the world record largest polar bear and stacking 7.5 of them on top of each other, or combining them into a single reptilian war machine. Imagine riding a megatheropod like that into a battle of the ancient world. I'm sorry, that's so awesome, bro, but with a name like Tyrannotitan, what else are you supposed to think of? Paleontologists are allowed to have fun too, after all. For such an incredibly famous animal, Carcharodontosaurus saharicus is known from genuinely crappy remains. Now that the Temeraraptor material got yoinked into its own genus, Carcharodontosaurus saharicus is, drumroll, a partial skull, some teeth, and a single cervical vert, along with some referred fragmentary material not confidently assigned to the genus.
Again, amazing what they're able to, like, guess, essentially, from 6 bones, you know? Like, that's pretty wild. I mean, like, I guess the leg bones would really help, like, especially if you know what pelvic and leg bones on other creatures of a similar type did. And, like, the fact that they can tell that it's something different, though, it's kind of amazing.
Core material hasn't stopped size estimate after size estimate, of course, with the latest being 8.2 tons based on a 3D model by the scientific design group Jagged Fang Designs. I find it hilarious that the T-Rex specimen cope is notably more complete than the entire species of C. saharicus, but that might just be me. Either that, or it's objectively funny. Speaking of terrible remains, this giant Spinosaurid rostrum might belong to Spinosaurus aegypticus. There's no overlap with the holotype, but it's clearly some kind of very large Spinosaurid, and clearly it dwarfs Ibrahim's 3.5-ton neotype. Any mass estimates from a chunk of skull are going to be enormously unreliable. That being said, 8.3 tons seems to be the upper limit for this big Spinosaurid at the moment, with most volumetric analyses scaled up from the neotype yielding several hundred kilograms lower. Every single entry in the Warlord tier is known from fragmentary remains, and Tyrannosaurus macraensis is no exception. This new species of Tyrannosaurus, described in 2024, is known from a partial skull and caudal vert from New Mexico.
Wow.
The material's big, comparable to mid-sized Rexes, but too scrappy to give any solid estimate for. Between 8 and 9 tons is a reasonable-ish.
That's nothing. Look what they have on this guy. Like, some pieces of his jaw, some pieces of his skull, and, like, a piece of his, like, tail. There's nothing from the middle. There's wow. And, like, they still feel confident that this is something different. All right. I don't know enough to know better.
Range, averaging out to 8.5. Whether or not this represents its own species or just an average Rex is still debated, and the dating of the Hall Lake Formation it was found in keeps swapping back and forth between the Campanian and the Maastrichtian. I don't know what to think anymore, other than this was a seriously formidable predator. The apex tier is when nature stopped messing around and started cranking out final bosses. Giganotosaurus carolinii is the theropod head honcho for the southern hemisphere. Discovered in 1993 by Ruben Carlini, may the legend rest in peace, the Giganotosaurus was built to take down living mountains. With long, stout jaws full of laterally compressed teeth and a Chad chin for the ages, Giganotosaurus hunted sauropods like Lumasaurus and the Argentinosaurus-sized Candelaros giant. The Giga itself was a monster. The holotype, based on multiple recons utilizing 3D scan data and some unpublished measurements, weighed between 8.8 and 9.1 metric tons. That's 9 world record polar bears, and enough teeth to make the kid...
I really wish that he would do something like how many tractor trailers or something is it? Just because I'm like, it's hard for me to... Because I know polar bears are big, but I give me something that's like, is it building sized? Like, where are we at? Like, that's kind of where I need something a little bit more tangible than 9 polar bears.
From Jurassic World P himself. We can't forget the internet famous Giga dentary either. This referred specimen is just over 6% larger than the same section in the holotype dentary, but what that means is up to interpretation. Skulls are infamously variable relative to body size in theropods, so this suffers from the same issues as T-Mac, Zhucheng, Carcharodontosaurus, and the big Spinosaurid nose.
I didn't realize it was like a big deal in theropods specifically, but like skull sizes can be bizarre, like in other creatures too. It's like, feels small or feels too big, you know? So it's like, it does make sense that like you can't necessarily judge the size of a creature from its skull. I think you need like legs and hips to really have an idea, right? Like I feel like the bigger the leg bones are, the bigger the pelvic bone is. Like that really gives a pretty solid idea of actual size.
Dentaries in particular have huge variations
from what I remember
within individuals. The T-Rex stand, for example, has a comparable size difference in its left and right dentaries to the one that exists between the 2 Giga specimens. That being said, if we took Gigachin at face value and assumed it wasn't the same size as the holotype, it would scale to a hefty 10.6
like that he called him
tons,
Gigachan.
the first individual to breach 10 tons on the list.
Holy
Tyrannosaurus Rex would then be the game's true final boss, the
T-Rex
figure leading the Megatheropod forces. With a much larger sample size than any of the other dinosaurs on this list, it makes sense that we'd have found supergigantic individuals, but there's more to it than that. I've been privy to projects involving 3D scans of T-Rex, Giga, and other large theropod material, and have come to better understand the sheer robusticity of Rex, and of one specimen in particular, Sue. Remarkably complete and enormous, Sue has been measured and studied over and over again. Many paleontologists involving Sue in their papers, however, don't specify the measurement standards used when comparing bones. Here's an example. Sue's femur length is often cited as 1321 millimeters, but femur length depends on how you measure it. From the femoral head to the lateral condyle, for example, you get 1386 millimeters. From the greater trochanter to lateral condyle, it's 1321 millimeters. You can use 3D scans to directly compare all the measurement standards, and by doing so, some colleagues have learned that Sue is actually larger than Scotty in most measurements, and may even be more massive than anything mentioned so far in this video.
Wow!
Why these things aren't standardized is beyond me, but it turns out that specificity, when describing a specimen, is actually important. Sue might be the biggest relatively complete theropod, but not the biggest we have the remains of. Cope, informally known as Copium rex, has a preserved maxilla, tibia, fibula, and femur, and notably exceeds Sue in all but one measurement. More material is known from Cope and is in the process of being reconstructed. However, even Cope might not be king. The recently discovered Tyrannosaurus specimen Goliath, known from an isolated femur, could be even larger. The proximal portion, the end closer to the body, is damaged and incomplete. Even in such a condition, its femoral head to medial condyle length is greater than Sue's at 1371 millimeters, and it's much more robust than any other theropod femur ever recorded, with a minimum circumference of 647.7 centimeters. That's more massive than Cope's 630.3, and far beyond Sue and Scotty's 590 centimeters. I had another chat with Brian Curtis, who measured the beast, and he clarified that he measured in a straight line to the medial condyle, which is typically shorter than the lateral, and that the femur would have been 2 to 4 centimeters long when complete. That would bring its femoral head to medial condyle length to at least 139.1 centimeters and as high as 141.1, making it longer than Sue's and far thicker. Femoral robusticity is
so does that mean also he was older? Like, because bones get fatter as you get older? Like, right? Is that a thing bones do? Why do I think bones do that? Like, there's thicker bones, which probably meant that he was also carrying more weight, which also, you know, the bones expand. But, like, I think... okay, you know what? I don't know where I pulled that information out of. Like, that is just like a factoid that was like somewhere in my head. And I was like, oh yeah, the thicker a bone is, the older. I don't know why I thought that. That's probably crazy. Because I think like old people have like really fragile, skinny bones, right? Maybe it just means that he's thicker. He's thicker in general.
With body mass, and formulas developed by paleontologist Campione and Evans yield a body mass of 11,000 mass, and formulas developed and far thicker. Moral robusticity is closely associated with body mass, and formulas developed by paleontologist Campione and Evans yield a body mass of 11,468 kilograms for Goliath. Those same methods yield 10.7 tons for Cope and 8.8 tons for Sue and Scotty, and are known to underestimate body mass compared to more holistic volumetric methods. Accounting for the damage, and applying the same measurement standards to using femoral volume allometry, which accounts for both length and circumference of the femur, scales Goliath to between 12.34 and 12.96 metric tons based on Sue and Scotty. Feel free to pause and look at the math. Pardon my French,
but I believe you.
Are getting pretty darn ridiculous. But remember, it is just a femur, although it's by far the biggest theropod femur I've ever heard of. The lowest credible estimate is still 11.46 tons based on circumference allometry, with more holistic methods yielding higher masses. So, is Tyrannosaurus the biggest megatheropod? Well, yes, and no. In terms of the specimens we have, absolutely. Nothing else is really that close to Cope, and Goliath is in a league all its own. But you have to remember that runner-ups, like the giant Acrocanthosaurus, are typically known from 1 or 2 specimens if they're lucky, compared to dozens for T-Rex. Just looking at the difference in size between Meraxes individuals tells us that we can't assume an average or maximum size based on a single skeleton. Heck, we don't even have enough T-Rex specimens with rigorous size estimates to establish a statistically significant average, and it's the best studied megatheropod in the world. These sorts of rankings are always...
Why do we have so many T-Rex guys? Because like we found a lot of them. I'm just kind of wondering. I feel like people have probably mentioned this before, but I don't know. Why do we know so much about T-Rex?
Subject to change. And when they do, I'll be there to cover it. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the Megatheropod kingdom. If there are any megatheropods known from halfway decent material that I missed, let me know in the comments. What do you think was the biggest theropod ever? My money is still on something similar to Spinosaurus or Deinocheirus, given their relatively low gravity lifestyles and less dangerous food items, allowing for large size and long lifespans. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll keep you updated as paleontology continues to surprise us. I'm the Vividen, and I'll see you next time.
That's pretty cool. I did find that very interesting. Also, I've looked up bone density and why some bones are thicker than others, and it has to do with genetics, diet, particularly calcium and vitamin D, and physical activity levels. So, anyway, I don't know why I think, you know what? I think I might have been thinking about trees. Might have been thinking about trees and not bones at all when I said that foolish thing about being older. Anyway, dinosaurs are so cool. Paleontology is a really cool subject, and I wish I knew a little bit more about it. I went through a dinosaur phase as a kid, and that was a while ago, and I don't remember most of it. That's where I'm at. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to see more dinosaur content, you have to let me know in the comments what specifically to look at. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.